Hello guys, welcome back. OpenAI recently made the announcement about this function calling and other API updates. Right, so in this video what I will do is first walk you through this article in brief, and then I will show you what does the longer context and the lower prices means with this diagram which I have been explaining you in different videos. And then what I will show you is the OpenAI function call example. First, we will go through the same example provided by OpenAI, and I will show you two different examples, one with the sum of two numbers, and the next one is we will do the web surfing. It's kind of ChatGPT plugin. And I will also show you some of the example links using LangChain also. Let's get started. Okay, so now let's go through this announcement. Here, let's go to the summary part here. So it says that there is a new function calling capability in the chat completion API, and they have updated and more steerable versions of GPT-4 and GPT 3.5 Turbo. And there is the new 16K context version of GPT 3.5 versus the 4K one that we had before, right? And there is the 75% cost reduction on our state-of-the-art embedding model. And there is 25% cost reduction on the input tokens for GPT 3.5 Turbo. And there is the deprecation of some of the models. And yeah, there is the function calling. So what does this mean is actually, as you can see here, we can create a chat bots that answer questions by calling external tools like ChatGPT plugins. By the way, we already use LangChain to do the external API calls, but now similar to what they have done in ChatGPT plugins, we can utilize the same thing here with the different models. And that works only with this 0613 models. We'll go through in the example. How this works is, for example, let's say that there is the email Anya to see if she wants to get coffee next Friday. So that is similar to what send email, that is the function, and something is processed here, right? So we'll go through in detail in the example. And that is the function call, and there is the example also here. You can follow this along. So here there is the step 1, which is calling the OpenAI API. Step 2 is the third party API, and there is step 3 again, which is the OpenAI API things. You can just expand this and go and see the response here and the request, and the response from this step 1 can be passed to the second step. So if you can see here, there is again request and response and something like that. And if you scroll down, there are new models. So let's not go through this. There are new models, of course, but this one is quite interesting. Here is GPT 3.5 Turbo 0613 includes the same function calling as GPT-4, because GPT-4 is used to create the ChatGPT plugins, right? So now we can use the same thing with the help of GPT 3.5 Turbo 0613, meaning that this is the release date. 06 is the June and 13 is the 13. It was released on June 13, 2023, right? And then there is the GPT 3.5 Turbo 16K, which offers the 4 times the context length. So what does this mean, right? If we go to the diagram here, I have been explaining this in different LangChain videos, why we need to do the chunking part, right? Here we have the book, and we need to extract the book and split into different chunks, right? What is the main purpose of chunking here is because the context length is not that high, right? If we go to the models part here, as you can see here, the model that we are using, GPT 3.5 Turbo, it uses 4096 tokens only. That is the reason why we need to have different chunks, so that the chunks passes that it does not go beyond that token limit, right? So now the good part is, instead of having 4 different chunks, let's say for example, we can just have one chunk, because the max token limit is now around 16,000. As you can see here, it's 4 times higher. So that is the one benefit, but you need to be careful in using the GPT 3.5 Turbo 16K or GPT 3.5 Turbo models. You need to be careful with this, and there is also the cost part associated with it. So you need to be careful which one to use. So this is the new models part, but as you can see here, there is the lower pricing, right? So embedding, they have reduced the cost by 75%. That is really good. If you go to the diagram again, As you can see here, this is the chunking part. There is the embedding API. That is the same embedding we use. For example, let's say this is the Openai. And when we do the embedding, there is the cost, right? So that cost is 75% reduced now. That is what this is explaining here. And now there is the GPT 3.5 Turbo. And here, as you can see here, the cost is reduced by 25%. And this GPT 3.5 Turbo 16K will be priced at 0.003 per 1K input tokens, as well as 0.004 per 1K output tokens. This is what you need to be careful which model you want to use. If you have a really long document, then you can go with this GPT 3.5 Turbo 16K, because it can have more number of tokens and the price is 0.003. But if you have roughly less number of tokens, then you can even go with this one because the cost is lower. It depends upon your applications and what you want to do. And by the way, if you want to go through the official documentation, here is the link of the documentation. If you just click this one, it will open the main documentation about the function calling from OpenAI. You can read all the different instructions here. I will provide the link in the description so you can follow along this. Now let's go to the Google Colab. What do we need to do? First is set up the environment, right? If you expand this one, so there is this, we need to install the necessary libraries, and then you need to import something, and then you need to get the OpenAI API key. If you don't have it, you can go to this particular link and get the OpenAI API key. Then we are ready to go. The first thing, let's go to the example one. So example one is just what I took from the OpenAI's example. If you can go here, so there is the example being provided here. So I just copy pasted the example here just to show you how it works. In the beginning, we need to have a function. So as you can see here, this is the function where it says get current weather and the location and the unit. So unit is provided Fahrenheit here, and there is the location, right? And then the step one is send the model the user query and what functions it has access to, right? So if you can see here, there is this function called run conversation, and the response is the OpenAI chat completion model, and the model is GPT 3.5 Turbo. We need to use this particular model, right? And then here there is the message, role, user, and content is just the what's the weather like in Boston, right? And then the functions, right? We pass the function that we created here, as you can see here, and the description is get the current weather and all the different properties. It depends upon your use cases what you want to use, but here this is just the location and description, the city and the state, right? And the unit can be Celsius and Fahrenheit, but we have used Fahrenheit by default. And yeah, required is the location, because without location we cannot get the temperature, right? Then the function call is auto. Then we have the message, which is the response we get from this particular thing. And the step two is check if the model wants to call a function, right? So from this response we get the function call, and then we just get it here, right? Function name is message, function call, and the name, and then we call the function. This is what it is done here. And the step four is send the model the info on the function call and the function responses, which gives us the content is the current weather in Boston is sunny and windy with a temperature of 72 degrees Celsius. So this is Fahrenheit, not Celsius, because we have given the Fahrenheit. This is just a dummy example, as it is also mentioned here. Example dummy function hard coded to return the same weather, right? Because this is what it is returning here, 72, and we ask it to return 72. Right, and the location we have passed here, Boston. So if you go and see the answer, it says here the current weather in Boston is sunny and windy with a temperature of 72. This is what we passed here, but this can be useful when you are using the API calls, right? So this is just the demo example they have provided. Okay, so now let's break this down, right? Let's go through the second example, sum of two numbers. Now let's break the steps that is mentioned here step by step. You get the idea what is going behind the scene. First, we need to define a function, right? So this is a custom function that called get addition, number 1 and number 2, right? So we just return the string number 1 plus number 2, right? And then there is the function call we need to make. The list of functions the model may generate JSON input for, right? So the functions is the same that I just explained you before, but the definition is different here because it depends upon what you are doing, and all the other things are same here. Once you have the functions, now the step 1 is send model the user query, right? As you can see here, this is the response, and this is all the same, and you can have your own things. Here I'm asking what's the sum of 5 and 7, and the functions is this is what we just created, and the function call is auto. What does this mean is that the model can pick between an in user or calling a function, right? And then there is the message and the response. This is the response that it is being provided, right? The next step what we do is if message.get function call, right? It needs to get the function call. The function name is of course the name that we just get from the message, and the arguments is the one that we get, right? So I'm printing here the arguments. As you can see here, it is number 1 is 5 and number 2 is 7, right? And then yeah, this is what it is being provided here, and the function name is just printed here, so you get the idea that it is taking the get addition function that we created here, right? Get addition. If we go down here, now the calling the function, right? Function response is get addition. We are passing the 2 numbers here, so the answer must be 12, right? This is the addition, so 5 plus 7 is 12. Now what we do is send model the info on the function call and function response. So yeah, as you can see here, this is the second response. We take the OpenAI chat completion. This is the model we need to use. Message, you can just pass anything here, and the role is the user, and yeah, function name, function response. And if you print this, as you can see here, now it says the role is assistant, content is the sum of 5 and 7 is 12. So yeah, this is how it uses. And the last thing that it printed here is what is the prompt tokens, what is the completion tokens, and what is the total number of tokens, right? So this is how it is being done. And just to show you that we can now, as we created all the different things, now we can just change this particular thing here, right? Instead of sum of 5 and 7, what I am passing here is, okay, what is the sum of 10 and 7? So it should give us the answer, right? So the second response here, it says the sum of 10 and 7 is 17, right? So yeah, that is how the simple example works. Now let's go and see the third example about web surfing. Okay, so now the example 3 is the web surfing. It's kind of ChatGPT plugin. By the way, this is just introduced in the ChatGPT or the OpenAI model, right? But we have been using this kind of things in the LangChain already. If you remember the tools and the agents that we have created, that's kind of these things, right? We have already used the OpenAI model because that is being trained until the data of 2017 or something. Just to show you the examples how you can get it, if you go here, you can see that GPT 3.5 Turbo, this is the description, this is the maximum number of tokens, and it says here training data, right, up to September 2021. So you can go through the documentation and see till when the data is being trained. Some of the things are even just trained up to June 2021. So just go through the documentation. I will provide this in the description box. Now let's go to the Google Colab. Let's expand this one, right? So here what I'm planning to do is do the web surfing so that we ask the recent information. It's kind of how we give internet access to ChatGPT, because the same model GPT 3.5 is being used before, right? This Turbo, but now we have the different model which we are passing the internet access. So it includes the same function calling at GPT-4. Hence, we can create the ChatGPT similar to ChatGPT like plugins with Python code now. So first, what I'm doing here is installing DocPy, right? And then here from DocPy, we are importing the client. And here I'm just initializing that. And now the same process we can go. First, we create a function called search API. And here we are using the client and source, and we are passing the input and return the output, right? This output is being returned. So this is the function. And now as you can see here, it's the same, right? The model is the same, all the code is the same, but the only thing that is different is the content, right? What we want to pass it. So who is the winner of Champions League 2023? So this is what happened recently. The chat OpenAI GPT 3.5 turbo model does not have the information about this, right? Here we pass the function search API. This is what we created here. And here I'm just passing search information from online, the description, and whatever you can pass whatever you want here. Here is all the same things what we explained before, and then the same thing here. And the step 2, we are just checking if the model wants to call the function. Same thing here. And yeah, this is also the same third process, and the fourth process we are passing that to the model, right? So when I run this particular shell here, as you can see here, the input is winner of Champions League 2023, and the ID is something here, object is chat.completion, created this, model is what it is being uses. And the good part here is now it now has the internet access. So it did the Google search with DuckDuckGo or this DuckPy, and the winner of the UEFA Champions League in 2023 was Manchester City. They defeated Inter Milan 1-0 in the final, right? And then it also explained which took place at Istanbul Stadium. So yeah, that is how we get the information of the latest thing using the OpenAI model, which provides the access to the search, right? It did some search from the internet and provide the answer for us. So yeah, we just created a chat GPT like plugin like application or whatever you want to call it, with just few lines of code. There are some of the examples from the OpenAI cookbook, how to use functions with the knowledge base. You can just go here and see the example from the OpenAI cookbook. By the way, there are many examples for you in the cookbook, so you can just go here and play around. This is the one, how to use functions with the knowledge base. You can just follow this particular notebook. And if we go back, there is also the how to call functions with the chat models. It's also the example from the OpenAI cookbook. I'm not going through this because it is similar to what we just did, but with different thing. Here it is using the chat models, right? And now let's go through the LangChain. I will not go through the code, but I will show you how it is being used. LangChain is quite fast actually. They just implemented this in a couple of hours when OpenAI introduced this thing. If you go to the Twitter also, so here they released, okay, new agent is being released, and they have explained what is happening behind the scene, because we have been using this kind of tools and agents in LangChain, right? And what happens when we use the OpenAI functions, right? They have explained all the different things. I will also provide this particular thread in the description, so you can go through and read about this. But let me go and show you some examples from the LangChain documentation. Here, there is the LangChain tools as the OpenAI functions. As you can see here, so if you have followed my LangChain videos, you know how we can do these things, right? So we can import these things, and now we are using the chat OpenAI model with this particular version. I'm focusing this too much because remember to use this, otherwise it will not work. And now from LangChain.tools, we have this normal tool which was there before, and now there is format tool to OpenAI function. As you can see here, we have the tool, right? So the tool is here. What the function is doing here is for t in tools, meaning that it is going to see, it is just one here, but then it is doing format tool to OpenAI function, and then we are passing this particular t, and other things are the same here. Now the model.predict messages and move file foo to bar, and there is the message. There is many things behind the scene here with this particular format tool to the OpenAI functions. If you find it useful, you can just use this particular tool in your applications. By the way, there is also the agent, as I said before, LangChain OpenAI function agent. So yeah, whenever there is something, there is already new things implemented in LangChain so fast. Thanks for them. So here, as you can see here, this is the agent example, all the things here. And here we have the tools. So there is a tool called search. There is a tool called calculator. There is a tool called foobar db, right? And there are the different tools. What we can do now is initialize the agent. That is how we initialize the agent in LangChain, right? We pass the tools. We pass the LLM. As you can see here, there is the LLM, chat OpenAI, and the agent is agent type dot OpenAI functions. So that is how it is being used. And the verbose is true because we just want to see the output, right? So yeah, this is we just run now here. Who is Leo DiCaprio's girlfriend? What is her current age raised to the 0.43 power, right? So as you can see here, it is entering the chain. And yeah, invoking search with query. Here is this thing here. and it provides the answer, and now is entering the new chain. So it finds the answer, right? 19 years old. Now it needs to provide this particular thing here, right? What is her current age raised to the 0.43 power. So now it is using the calculator to do this thing, and there is the final answer. This is how you can use the OpenAI functions as an agent. That's all I want to show you in this video. Although the video went a little bit longer, I hope now you get the idea how to use the function call and what does it mean with the longer context length and lower prices. So how can you utilize different models out of OpenAI, right? All the links will be provided in the description. Feel free to go through that. Yeah, thank you for watching and see you in the next video.